What's up guys, Manny from Motomillion. Our Diavel V4 is back. In this video today, since it's the new year, we're going to be taking on some weight savings because what's everyone's New Year's resolution is to try to save as much weight as possible, and we're going to get into the new year with a bang. So we're starting off today with the chain and sprockets. We're going to install a carbon part as well on our bike because on the next episode, we have a bigger carbon part coming. We're going to be changing our wheels, but let's go ahead and start with our chain and sprockets because I think you might be shocked on how much weight you can save with those mods, and it's going to look amazing. So let's go. Hey guys, I got various parts here on the table. It's our Superlite sprocket. This is not the carrier. This is something that's for the Superlite sprockets. And then your carrier is here. We have various parts like our chain, our cush drive, and our front sprocket. I don't know if this is going to fit our Diavel V4 because there's no guide online yet as of when we're filming this video to say this 520 conversion kit will fit. We're going to find out. As with all the videos guys, all of the products we use are in the description below. So once you're watching this video and we've verified the fitment, there is going to be a off-the-shelf 520 conversion kit for your motorcycle, and the link will be in the description below. So let me start just unpacking these, taking stuff off the motorcycle, and then let's figure out if this bike's going to ride out of here today. So first we're going to break the chain, get the chain out, and then we'll try to get the front sprocket off and the rear sprocket and its components off. I'm using my DID chain tool. I think we've showed this on the other videos that we did. I think we first used this on the SP2 series. So if you guys haven't seen it, go check that series out. I think that bike turned out beautiful. So now my pin is right here. We know that the chain is good to be taken off. Before I do that, I'm actually gonna go grab some shop towels so that I don't get my hands dirty. I don't have gloves today, so let's see how I wanna end up. I might have a bunch of smudges and smears on my face too. There you go, that's our stock chain. We'll weigh all of this to see how much weight we're going to save, but I'm going to put this somewhere like here for now. And then what I'm curious is that front sprocket. I want to see what the tooth count is. So let me take this sprocket cover off and let's see how big that front sprocket is. So guys, first things first, online I tried to research even the Ducati parts catalog. For whatever reason, doesn't exactly tell you the size of the front sprocket. The front sprocket is a 16. The only other source that I found it was saying 14, which is completely wrong, but it doesn't matter. I believe this sprocket is the same as all the Panigale V4 models, so we have a 16 in hand. We'll use that one. So that's the first thing we know. I'm sure of the rear one because I did check. The part number says 43 in the rear, but luckily we have more of those sprockets here. We're gonna throw on that front sprocket. Maybe the chain might not be long enough because I think it's set online as 126 links. It looks really long. I'm not gonna try to judge it by the looks of it. Once I open my chain packaging, we'll just put them side by side so you guys can see the difference in the chains, just the looks of them, I guess, and then we'll be able to tell how many links that is, or if it's shorter or longer. As long as our new chain is longer, we're good. We'll cut it to length and we'll put it on the bike. And that's our front sprocket off. Now let's verify to make sure that the front sprockets are correct, as I said, as the Panigale V4 sprockets. It's easy to check. All we got to check is the teeth around here and to make sure that it fits in correctly and it sits on the right offset. And now I'm about to remove the rear sprocket carrier. We have our TWM tool. This is a complete wheel tool. So it's able to remove your sprocket carrier nut, your wheel nut, and also if you use this side, it will remove your front wheel nut. Guys, the first time you crack that rear sprocket nut, or the sprocket carrier nut, and or your wheel nut, it's extremely tight. I don't know why. There's obviously torque spec to it. It always seems over tightened on Ducatis. If you just realize what I did, I had Jason sit on the bike, hold the rear brake. But again, I want to mention, guys, these videos are not instructional videos on how to do things on your motorcycle. We're just showing our progress with our builds to you guys, and I always recommend using qualified mechanics for doing anything like this on your motorcycle. So guys, it's the moment of truth. Let's see how much our stock setup weighs. I just have everything on here. It'll be very, very easy just to weigh it like this. So the stock chain and sprocket setup, let me actually get the pin right here. This is not going to make a difference, but I just want to put it on there. So it weighs 11.40 pounds. That's your sprocket carrier nuts, your sprocket nuts, which are the small one, your front sprocket, and your stock chain, which I believe is 126 links. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to compare the chains right now for length. I'll cut my new DID ERV7 chain down to the link size, which again, I think it's 126 links. Then we'll put everything on the scale. We'll get a measurement for everything that's going on the bike. That way you guys know how much weight you're going to save. And I really want to know how much weight we're saving on this motorcycle as well. From the looks of it, it is indeed 126 links. That DID chain is 130 links. And again, we're using the DID ERV7 chain, guys. We're very picky with kind of chains we use because we are doing a 520 conversion kit. What's a 520 conversion kit? This bike comes with 525 chain stock. It's the chain pitch. It's the width of the chain. So if you come and take a look closely, I'm sure they're going to show you a shot of it very closely in this video. The DID chain is slightly thinner. It's actually also made of materials that are lighter, but also stronger than your stock 525 chain. I really want to mention this, and I always do. Safety is #1 thing when you're riding a motorcycle, especially when you're changing your products and parts on your motorcycle. So you want to make sure that whatever you're putting on the bike is just as good or better. In this case, this is going to be lighter, it's going to be stronger, and we know that we'll be safe on the road with it. We have our rear sprocket. We still have to tighten everything down. We have our cush drives. These are the Superlite titanium cush drives. They're polyurethane on the outside, and the studs, as you see, are titanium. And what are cush drives? They basically absorb some of the shock that comes through the drivetrain. The factory stuff is just rubber. It plays around a little too much, and over time they get worn. These last longer, and they're actually lighter. Speaking of lighter, I cut the chain to the right size. Let me turn my scale on. Let me put everything that's going back on the bike onto the scale, and let's see how much weight we saved. So guys, there we are. We're saving just over 2.5 pounds of weight, which is quite a bit when you think about that. This is drivetrain weight that we're losing. And what does this mean? It means that the bike is going to lose less power from the crank up to the wheel, because don't forget, there's parasitic losses that happen. Don't ask me how much, but you know, we're trying to optimize everything. We're trying to make the bike look good. It's losing some weight, and also it's going to actually perform better because it's going to make more power at the rear wheel now that it's been lightened in terms of the drivetrain. But don't forget, that piece of the swing arm moves up and down, so we're actually losing some unsprung weight as well. So that's going to mean that the bike is performing better in terms of agility and handling, because just like the wheels, it has gyroscopic effect, right? So something is spinning, it's going to fight you to lean, and everything on the bike, including the wheels, your sprockets, and your crankcase that's spinning, is causing gyroscopic effects. I believe these bikes, like the Panigale V4, has the counter-rotating crankshaft, which rotates backwards in terms of the wheels going forward, which kind of reduces that gyroscopic effect. But again, I think this is a huge number. It's 2.5 pounds, a little over 2.5 pounds actually, so that's quite a bit of weight. Let me put this all back on. Now that we know that it weighs less, I think you're going to agree that it looks good. And there's also other ways that you could dress it up, so you could use different colors. This bike is going to get painted. It's not going to stay red. That's why we kind of stayed away from using some reds. I call this Jerry Campese spec. It's pretty black with gold, but I think it's going to look good once the bike is painted, and you're going to have to wait to see what the paint job is going to be. So our sprocket and carrier setup is done. I lowered the bike because obviously I don't want the lift to be super high with me taking it off the rear stand, because it is a little bit of a heavier bike. I don't want the bike to tip over or anything, but I'm going to pull the bike up. We're going to be loosening the eccentric so that we give ourselves some room with the chain slack. We'll put our front sprocket, run the chain through, rivet and press it on, and I think that's going to be it for the chain and the sprocket. Now that we routed our chain through our front and rear sprocket, and now I got to loosen the tension of the chain. I know that the chain is not connected, but our eccentric hub is probably at a point that I can't put this back on, especially this is a new chain compared to the used chain that we took off, because don't forget, things loosen a little bit when you ride it, especially the chains. One new thing that I've realized with this bike, or not new, but something new to me, is that the eccentric bolt is a single bolt on this bike, as opposed to the Panigale V4 and the Street Fighter being a double Allen head bolt, and this is a T60. So if you're trying to do this yourself, or if your mechanic's trying to do it, make sure that they have a T60. I'm sure a mechanic's going to have it. But what you do is you loosen it. There we go, and then you grab your eccentric tool so that you could actually move the chain forward, well, the sprocket. Okay guys, so the chain is pressed and riveted on, and I'm going to use my eccentric wrench to pull the axle back. So when I say eccentric, it's basically a round piece, but the hole's not in the center, so when you spin it, it'll pull this axle back or forward a little bit, and that's how you set your tension on your chain. It has the stock specs over here. It's 32 to 34 millimeters of play up and down, so we're gonna do that. I also wanna mention that all the tools that I'm using in terms of the chain tools will be in the link description. I guess we'll have it separate for you guys, tools to use, and then we'll have a separate section for the products that we use on this video. But let me go ahead and set the chain tension, and then we can admire the beauty of this motorcycle. So I use my slack setter tool to set the chain tension. You have to kind of get used to using this, but the way it works is you could zero it out anywhere you want, right? And you'll go up and you go down, and this shows you the range of motion. You want to make sure this doesn't go up and down with it, because it's kind of lubricated in here. So in this case, we went all the way up to the up point, and then we pulled it down, and it was right around 30 odd so millimeters, so I just left it at that. So guys, before I cover everything up, you guys might have noticed that the orange dot that I put on the front sprocket bolt, and that's actually a thread checker. What it means is that it's going to harden after a while. Probably it's hard now, but since we've put it on when we torque the front bolt down, and if it were to ever loosen, it'll crack, and then that's the way that you could tell if it's loosened or not. And I think I should be able to take a look from this angle and clearly tell if they're lined up or not. So it gives me a little bit of peace of mind, because don't forget, you're not supposed to be running any kind of thread lock on the bolts here. You actually have to put a grease that the manual states. I also want to mention that the sprocket setup that we want with this motorcycle is probably something that you guys haven't seen us use. Yes, we've used Superlite before, but usually on the BMWs, on the Ducatis, we love our Sita sprockets. They're aluminum, they're duraluminum, let me say it right. And I didn't run with that setup because yes, that setup is I think almost a pound lighter on the rear sprocket specs, or maybe half a pound, but they don't last as long as a steel sprocket. on this bike, this is meant to go for touring, go for long rides, so you're expected to put a lot of miles on it. So it only makes sense to put a steel sprocket on there, but all the components, as you saw, are fairly light. The sprockets themselves are called Superlite, so super cool. Let's get this finished. I really want to see those carbon parts on here. Perfect, so I think I could say that our sprocket conversion kit is done. We went from a 525 sprocket to a 520 sprocket. You guys saw that we saved a little over 2.5 pounds. Now, let's get on with our weight savings. I don't know if this part's gonna save really a lot of weight, but it's carbon fiber. I think it's gonna look good on this bike. Also, there's loads more carbon fiber coming for this motorcycle other than the wheels that we'll install on the next episode. Our plan with this motorcycle is to convert all of the body panels to carbon, except the fuel tank, because it's not made in carbon yet, or probably won't ever be. But either way, we're going to convert all the body panels of this motorcycle to carbon. It's going to get some very special paint jobs, so it's going to be a little bit of carbon showing. So you guys have to stay tuned to see what color or what colors we choose to go with. Pieces off. This is a lot heavier than I expected. I want to weigh this. Jesus, weighs 2.58 pounds. Okay, so now we got to dissect this out of here, and then we'll put our carbon piece on it. Basically the piece that we're replacing, guys. And we're replacing it with this piece over here, just holding them together. I could say that this weighs a lot less. For the sake of knowing what we're saving, this is a pound, 1.34 pounds. And this one right here is 0.44 pounds. So it's almost a pound of weight savings, guys. That's pretty crazy. Let me put things back together. If you want this part over here, this metal part, this is actually pretty heavy too. This comes in carbon. But for this build, I don't want to make everything just carbon because you'll see when we paint the bike, it's not just going to be carbon, it's going to be pretty colorful and tasteful. I want to just put this trim piece back on here so that we have some sort of a break in the carbon. And then once we move along, we might get this piece in carbon and paint it because, well, I kind of gave it up. We're going to paint this piece, but we'll paint the carbon one. So guys, the left side is now done. I'm going to be open and honest. There are some holes inside that we had to use a drill to enlarge it. It's a Ducati bike product. Maybe they're not used to making carbon, but some of the holes were off in terms of sizing. So be aware of it when you get this. If it's your first time installing carbon, maybe you want to take it to a place that knows what they're doing and not afraid of just elongating or making some of the holes bigger. It's mainly for this part in front. Also, don't forget the parts that we took off are plastic. Plastic bends and molds into a shape that you want a lot easier. Carbon is pretty rigid. This thing doesn't even want to bend. So it could be that as well. But all in all, I'm happy with the fitment. The fitment in the bottom is a little off over here, but then again, it's on the bottom side of the motorcycle. So it'll go on like this. You'll never see the bottom of it. But I wanted to be open and honest as we always are. Otherwise, everything looks really good and you guys see that side's already on. I'll put this on that side and the guys behind the camera will make some magic to show you guys some detailed shots of it. So you guys have a 100% clear view of what they look like and how the lines look like on the motorcycle. But let me just put this back on there, 3 pins and 1 bolt, and it'll be back on the bike. So guys, that's it. The carbon parts are installed, the air intakes, but I want to mention something. These do not feed to the engine. Your air intake is right in the middle. We did that filter install when we installed our Tormignoni exhaust. Go check the video out. These just give fresh air to your legs, so that cools you down. As you know, there's a big joke, Ducatis run hot. They have seat heaters from the factory and all that funny stuff, but this bike actually is not like that because it deactivates 2 cylinders and it does do wonders for the bike because we did try it with the cylinder deactivation removed. I don't recommend it to anyone. It does get pretty hot, at least we're in a hot climate. But I think the bike's looking beautiful. It has our Superlite 520 conversion kit on it, and that'll be available on our website as a kit just for the front sprocket and the rear sprocket setup. You'd have to get your parts in terms of the sprocket carrier and maybe the cush drive separately, but that gives you the option of kind of mixing, matching the colors. This sprocket always comes in black, but you could get your sprocket carrier in red, gold, and silver, or whatever color you like, as well as these small and large nuts. Everything is torqued down. The chain is also beautiful. It's the DID ERV7 chain, and on top of it, we did a little more of the mods in terms of looks. We changed our carbon part over here. Daniel behind the camera noted something because I asked the guys over here if they liked it or not, and they noted something that it really ties in the Tormignoni heat shields that are plain carbon fiber with the same satin finish as the Ducati carbon parts that we installed over here. And now that they mentioned it, I stand back and take a look at it. It really ties everything together. But don't forget, in the following episodes, there's going to be more carbon going on onto the motorcycle. We will change our chain guard and our rear hugger into a carbon piece as well. And that's going to put even more carbon on the motorcycle, which again will tie everything together. Don't forget, the bike's going to get a full paint job, so everything will change around in terms of what's left carbon and what's not. And on the next episode, guys, we're doing some huge weight savings. Today, I think we saved about 2.5 pounds with the sprocket and chain setup, about 1.6 pounds with these air conveyors. That's what I'm going to call them, the air conveyor pieces that we put on. So in total, we save 4 pounds. Don't forget, right over there, we have our scales. We're going to go try to find a stock Diavel V4 because we never weighed this bike when it was brand new. And then once we change the wheels and everything, we'll kind of weigh this bike to see where we're at. And then once we're completely done with the project, we're also weighed to give you guys an update on how low the weight got. But I can't wait till the next episode. Those wheels are going to look awesome. They're going to save a ton of weight, guys, and we'll show it to you. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Until next time, guys, have a good one.